This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Friday, April 9th, 2021. I'm Ephraim Graham. Thank you so much for joining us. Ahead today, a workplace shooting. See what investigators have learned so far. And words matter. Holocaust Remembrance Day is over, but a social media campaign is making sure no one forgets. Then how a faith-based charity is helping immigrants at the border. We'll explore. And creating super soldiers. What's America's role and is it ethical? All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin with this half hour. Buckingham Palace officials say Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth II, has died. He was 99 years old. Philip spent a month in the hospital earlier this year before being released on March 16th to return to Windsor Castle. And we are learning more about a mass shooting in Texas at this hour. A 27-year-old is accused of shooting up his workplace. Police say the employee at a cabinet company in Bryan, Texas, shot and killed at least one person and injured 5 others. He's also accused of hurting a state trooper before they were able to arrest him. Investigators have not released a motive at this time. We turn to Washington now, where President Joe Biden unveiled new measures Thursday aimed at reducing gun violence. He used executive action to tighten regulations on ghost guns, which are kits that allow people to legally build guns at home that can't be traced. He also placed restrictions on stabilizing braces, which effectively turn pistols into shot barrel rifles. Republicans have called the president's actions misguided. Democrats hope to push through their bold legislative agenda without any support from Republicans, and it appears to be squashed. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin declaring he will not vote to remove or weaken the Senate filibuster. For more on what this means for the Biden administration, here's CBN News' Capitol Hill correspondent, Abigail Robertson.
President Biden's first big push on gun control since taking office, and the White House says this is just the beginning.
Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. Let me say it again. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic.
Bypassing Congress, the president announcing a series of executive orders.
I asked the Attorney General and his team to identify for me immediate, concrete actions I could take now without having to go through the Congress.
The measures, which follow 3 mass shootings in 3 weeks, the latest in South Carolina, among the most aggressive gun policy prescriptions in a decade, including a Justice Department crackdown on so-called ghost guns made with 3D printers.
Modern guns are not simply cast or forged anymore, but can also be made of plastic, printed on a 3D printer, or sold in self-assembly kits.
Biden is also calling for tightening regulations on pistol stabilizing braces, like the one used by the Boulder, Colorado shooter in last month's rampage, investing in violence intervention programs, a firearms trafficking report, and red flag laws allowing courts to temporarily remove guns from people in crisis. On Capitol Hill, the Senate Majority Leader also vowing to overhaul gun laws and pass reforms requiring stricter background checks.
Is going to be different. A Democratic majority in the Senate is going to act. I have committed to put legislation to expand background checks on the floor of the Senate.
While the House passed its version last month, gun control measures face slim chances in the evenly divided Senate, where the GOP seems near unified against most of Biden's proposals.
The focus ought to be on identifying people in advance who have the capacity and the interest in carrying out these atrocious attacks.
Biden has also nominated David Chipman, a former Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Explosives special agent, to lead the agency. Meanwhile, pundits point out Biden's announcement falls far short of the sweeping gun control agenda laid out on the campaign trail, underscoring the limitations of executive power to act on guns. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Again, that was Tara Mergener reporting. Medical examiners say George Floyd died because of a lack of oxygen from being pinned to the pavement with a knee on his neck. Those examiners testified at former Officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial Thursday, rejecting the defense theory that Floyd's drug use and underlying health problems killed him. Chauvin is charged with murder and manslaughter in Floyd's death. George Floyd's death sparked national conversations and protests about race relations in America. Charlene Aaron introduces us to one group that is working to break down barriers by planting churches in minority communities.
The global church planning network Acts 29 launched the plan in an effort to start and grow gospel-centered churches in Hispanic and urban communities, a move that comes at a time when America's Latino population continues booming growth.
Because the Great Commission says go to all nations.
As leader of the initiative, Pastor Doug Logan wants to focus on unity as well as diversity.
What it's going to reflect is God's heart for the lost of all nations. When we begin to reflect that, and we don't have a messianic complex where we think our culture is elevated over other cultures, and we realize we sit under the living God who levels the playing field because sin has leveled us and grace has brought us into family and relationship, we then can begin leading the way in displaying the manifold beauty of the family of God.
After a year of racial stress across America, the movement comes at a most opportune time.
Right now, we're in such a tense situation where everybody is so picky about definitions and words. But as a church and as people of God, we are called to love each other. And that's the way the world will know that we are his people, if we love each other despite our differences.
Pastor Chuy Rodriguez of D.C.'s Redemption Hill Church will head up Acts 29 Espanol.
There is a great need. As we all know, the Hispanic population specifically, which is the area that I'm in charge of, continues to grow in the United States. If I'm not mistaken, in the last census, there were close to 60 million Hispanics in the U.S.
An opportunity, he says, is ripe for the church to reach this community. According to Pew Research, 85% of Latinos share a belief in God, and many are turning to Spanish-speaking churches. In 2019, Lifeway surveyed leaders from more than 200 new Hispanic church works from 14 Protestant denominations. 94% of its leaders were Hispanic.
Almost every single Latino country in the world is represented in the United States, and we have a prime opportunity to teach them, to train them, to disciple them, and to show them the gospel so that they can be light wherever they go.
With help from the Richmond-based Grimke Seminary, Hispanic pastors will be trained in biblical clarity, cultural engagement, and Acts 29 plans to fully support them in the outreach effort. Part of that requires specific reading in each class and pursuing a diverse faculty and staff.
I believe that a partnership between a church planting network and a seminary that is allowing and intentionally having courses for minorities is probably the perfect match for the next generation of pastors.
Pastors focused on leading all to what matters most.
That we want to have an authentic mission and movement to the least, the last, and the lost of any race.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Israel has wrapped up its Holocaust Remembrance Day, but a social media campaign aims to make sure that no one forgets. Holocaust survivors have recorded short video messages recounting their stories as part of the It Started With Words campaign. Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is joining us now to talk more about this. Chris, what is the goal of the campaign and who are these Holocaust survivors targeting?
Well, Ephraim, the goal of the campaign is to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive. You know, never again, this saying after the Holocaust also means never forget. And the further you get away from the Holocaust, more than 75 years ago, the memory gets dimmer. For example, you know, about 40% of people under 40, I should say people under 40, most of them can't even name one of the death camps there in World War II. In addition, they want to combat the rise of anti-Semitism. For example, 63% of Jews in the U.S. have experienced anti-Semitism in the last 5 years. And then finally, Ephraim, you know, many of the Holocaust survivors are passing away. Every year that passes, less and less are alive to sort of pass on that memory. So this campaign is really geared to young people in particular to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive.
Take us back to yesterday. What was the Memorial Day like?
Well, you know what happens here in Ephraim on Holocaust Remembrance Day is they have a 2-minute siren just outside the Bureau here. We heard that siren. We were on the street. We actually did a Facebook Live as well. The whole nation stops. In fact, this video you can have down in Tel Aviv, the main highway there, right through the main city of Tel Aviv. All of us cars stop, and they just get out. They get out of their cars, and for 2 minutes, people reflect on the power of what happened on the Holocaust, the tragedy and the horror, and so that's really a moving ceremony here. And then at Yad Vashem, they also had a ceremony. They have 6 candles that are lit by 6 survivors, and I've been there many times to that. It's incredible stories of resilience to keep the memory alive of what happened during World War II.
Must never forget, indeed. Let's turn things now to politics there. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about the Iran nuclear deal. What did he say?
Well, he said at Yad Vashem, he said he wouldn't be bound by the Iranian nuclear deal. Earlier this week, the U.S. and Iran started indirect talks. And what he commented there, he said, even to our best friends, that means the U.S. in particular, what this deal would do would pave a way for a nuclear weapon, and Israel will not be bound by that. He sees this as threatening the very existence of the Jewish state. And so, and one thing that unites Israelis is that they will want to combat those that want to destroy the Jewish state.
Have about 10 seconds, real quick. What's on Jerusalem Dateline tonight?
Well, we're going to have an update on the formation of a possible government here in Israel. We're going to have a story about how China signed an agreement with Iran and how that really furthers threatens Israel. And a powerful story, Ephraim, about the Holocaust, the last letters of many people who survived the Holocaust from Yad Vashem Memorial. Very powerful story.
Indeed. Look forward to that. Thank you so much, Chris. I want to remind you at home that you can get more from Chris Mitchell and his entire team at the Middle East Bureau on the News Channel tonight at 8:30 Eastern. That is Jerusalem Dateline. Coming up, our Heather Sells speaks with a faith-based group in El Paso working on both sides of the border to help those there. We'll be right back.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. We turn now to the southern border and new numbers out for the month of March. The U.S. government reporting it apprehended a record number of 19,000 migrant children last month, the most in the last 15 years at least. The surge of children and teenagers traveling without a parent doubled the number of migrants from February. Some 30% of the 172,000 migrants encountered at the border were making repeat attempts to cross. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas made his third trip to the U.S.-Mexico border Thursday to meet with officials to address the crisis. Heather Sells spoke with a leader of a faith-based group in El Paso, Texas, that is trying to help immigrants.
We're joined now by Sammy DePasquale, president of ABARA, who works with faith-based groups on the border in El Paso to meet immigrant needs. Sammy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Heather, for having me.
Tell us what you are seeing happening on the border in El Paso right now. We hear a lot about the Valley, but what's happening in El Paso?
So in El Paso, we haven't seen much in terms of on the streets. We have three things happening right now. One is we've had an orderly sort of crossing of those who are in Migrant Protection Protocol, or MPP, that started at 25 a day during the week and has moved up to about 100 a day. That has been pretty seamless with people partnering, including a lot of faith-based groups, both on the Juarez side and on the El Paso side. And we've been part of those, sort of receiving those, and many of those have been waiting. I was there yesterday, talked to a bunch of people, and they've been waiting for about 2 years in shelters over in Juarez, or sometimes together in apartments. So we have that group coming in. We also still have some being flown up from the Rio Grande Valley, because we have a unique situation in the Rio Grande Valley where the Mexican state on the other side of the border is not receiving back families with young children. And so that was sort of an unexpected turn of events. And so there's a lot of people coming across there. So Border Patrol was flying into El Paso up to a couple hundred a day for a while. Now it's a little over 100 probably. But now there's an agreement here with our border state of Chihuahua that 100 of those, up to 100 of those flown in from the Rio Grande Valley, will also be returned to Mexico under Title 42, but they will only accept 100. So we have a small number that are hitting the migrant shelters here in El Paso through that effort from the Rio Grande Valley, and then about 100 a day crossing through MPP who have been waiting for years. We also then have unaccompanied minors who, of course, we don't see on the streets at all. And those numbers have been growing steadily. I was on a call with the chief of El Paso Sector Border Patrol yesterday, and she said those numbers have been growing for about 10 months, but really grown quite a bit over the last few months. And their overcapacity, they've all been processed, not all, but about 80–90% of the unaccompanied minors have been processed and are ready to be released to Health and Human Services. But Health and Human Services right now doesn't have the capacity to take them in, so you have a bit of a bottleneck. So you sort of have those three groups.
That is a lot going on in El Paso. From your vantage point, what do you see are immigrants' needs that faith-based groups can help with, and what are you trying to address?
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing over the last 5 years, really, or 6, 7. I mean, I've been here 17 years, just seeing the faith-based groups on both sides of the border respond, be in the middle of all of this, often the central pieces. And I think some of the things that are most needed right now are, I mean, at the local level, there's a need for donations to help house some, especially those being flown in from the Rio Grande Valley. Currently, some are being put up in a motel, and so renting that motel, and the need for food, and some nonprofit groups have come in for that, to help with that. Some volunteers, but really it's more of a need for long-term volunteers. I think more than anything, honestly, I think there's so much misinformation and mistrust about information coming out that there really needs to be, what a lot of people can do is really try to understand better what is actually happening here on the border. And that's some of what my organization, ABARA, and others have been trying to do for a while, is just provide opportunities or border encounters to come for a few days, experience in person the realities, hear from a wide variety of groups, including asylum seekers, including Border Patrol and faith leaders and everyone else, to really try to sort of discern and see how, as an individual or as a church or a group, how to get involved. Because really, this isn't just about this instance on the border. It's part of a bigger picture. What's driving people? Why are people in so much desperation that they're willing to have their kids cross alone? I mean, think about what that would mean to you personally if you have children. I know I have 4 children, and I just can't imagine what I must be feeling in order to allow that to happen. So I think we really need to be thinking about the bigger picture, what's happening in source communities in Central America. So even in terms of policy, maybe if we're a part of a denomination that has partners in Central America, reach out, try to help to see how to help stabilize the situation on the ground and just get more informed. Honestly, I think that's some of what's most needed. But of course, the local organizations need donations of monetary donations and also of items such as backpacks or travel items, toiletries, things like that.
Reminds me that it really is a blessing to live in a country where so many people want to come to. Sammy DiPasquale, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Heather.
Still ahead, part man, part machine, the ethical implications of the first super soldier. We've got the story for you when we come back. Stay with us.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible, yes, Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back to CBN News Watch. China and the United States are in competition to create the first super soldier, part man and part machine. But even if it's something America has the technology to do, the question is it the right thing to do? Dale Hurt has the story.
This is the U.S. Army's concept of the soldier of the future. This video makes it look like it's just a better equipped soldier. But notice the words neural engineering. That can mean a brain implant that connects a human to computers. The defense agency DARPA has been working on an advanced implant that would essentially put the human brain online. There could also be eye and ear implants, and more circuitry under the skin to make the ultimate fighting machine. Americans are going to have to decide whether this is ethical, because some in our military clearly want it. The super soldiers of the future could simply have enhanced abilities, or they could be part man and part machine, what are known as cyborgs. China is already developing biologically enhanced super soldiers, using what former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe called unethical medical experiments.
This is a big effort on the part of the Chinese government, and it is really horrifying.
China expert Gordon Chang says it's part of a Chinese government plan to create a master race through genetic editing.
They're trying to create a race which is far more intelligent than the rest of humanity. And with super soldiers, they'd be stronger, less susceptible to pain, just better soldiers. This is eugenics. This is creepy. There are no ethical standards. There are no laws.
Now the French military has been given the go-ahead to also create so-called augmented soldiers. The super soldiers of the future will run fast, need little sleep, and little to eat or drink. And they'll be able to fight much longer than ordinary humans. But should we do it? George Lucas, who has taught military ethics to America's naval officers, says ethical concerns lag behind this new technology.
It always does. And
The only question is how far.
And Lucas is concerned that future military recruits could be pressured to accept computer parts into their bodies. He believes they should be allowed to refuse them.
The further into these more exotic technologies we go, and the more the risks are not known, the more we must at least rely on volunteerism, if not as much informed consent as is possible.
But the challenge for the United States is, even if we put ethical limits on the super soldier of the future, it's likely some of our adversaries will not. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Coming up, two brothers giving new meaning to the phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure. We'll explain when we come back.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians in
Iran are routinely arrested.
Nepali Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
For 5 months, two brothers in Los Angeles have been collecting discarded furniture, fixing the items up, and then donating them to Habitat Humanity's Restore. Ben and Sam Volek are regular Habitat volunteers, but COVID restrictions meant they had to find a new way to help. The teens say they do furniture runs every week and even created a website where homeowners can schedule a pickup. They say it's really important to give back. Time now for your Friday Faithful, and today I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap another work week. We all make plans and they can be good, but we must ask ourselves, is it just a good plan or is it a God plan? Know this, God's plan is always better than my good plan, so I don't want to make any plans without Him. He knows what's best for me. With that word, I encourage you to make today a fabulous Friday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful weekend and do it on purpose. That is a wrap for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time or online at cbnnews.com. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Email us, newswatch@cbn.com. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you right back here, same time Monday. Goodbye and God bless.